Hey everybody, welcome to the 400th weekly roundup. I cannot believe I've been able to do 400 of these, and of course it's all because of you. Why would I still do these if nobody listened? So I just can't thank you all enough for allowing me the opportunity to get through 400 of them. I think the 300th episode is probably my favorite one I've ever done, so I'll leave a link here for anybody that wants to watch that and have a good laugh. I think that was kind of a funny and silly one, and also a typical weekly roundup. But this week, I wanted to do something completely different to celebrate the 400th. I figured it would be neat if the writers would do their own sections. That way you get to see some familiar faces, and maybe you get to see some of the writers that contribute that maybe you just had never really heard from them before. So I think this was a really great way to celebrate them. Now, obviously, we couldn't get every single contributor involved in this, and even if we could, it would probably be a 3-hour episode anyway. So I figured I'd just put the question out to all the contributors, hey, who's around this week who has the ability to do one of these and would like to participate? And a bunch of people definitely wanted to add their thoughts in their posts, but just didn't have time this week. So I just figured, hey, let's just do the weekly roundup, but in their words, and just kind of have a fun way to celebrate the 400th. So thank you so much once again for the opportunity to do all of these, but now let's hear it directly from the writers.
Hey everyone, how's it going? So I recently made a video covering a pretty cool mod for the PSP Go, which expands its internal storage of 16 gigabytes by an additional 128 gigabytes. Now, as you may know, the PSP Go was a digital-only console where they removed the UMD drive, so there's no way to play any physical PSP games on the console, and you had to rely on digital downloads of PSP games. Now, one of the issues is that you ran out of storage pretty quickly, and one of the ways to alleviate that was to expand it using a memory stick, which was a Sony proprietary format. And at the time, they pretty much maxed out at about 16 gigabytes. So really, you had the internal 16 gigabytes, and you can only add another 16 for a total of 32, which back then was probably a pretty substantial amount of storage, but by today's standards, it's pretty small. So there's a really cool mod that allows you to adapt a micro SD card to the memory stick M2 format. And the way it does this is it has a sort of ribbon cable that you can plug into the M2 port, and then you can add a micro SD card up to 128 gigabytes. Now in my video, I showed a version of the mod that was made by Genius Game Mods, but he wasn't the creator of this particular mod. This was actually created by a Japanese modder named Kushan all the way back in, I think it was like 2017. Now, unfortunately, around 2019, he stopped offering the mod, and that's where you sort of saw a couple other people come into the picture making sort of their own variations of this, one of them being Genius Game Mods. And now there are other people who make mods like this that also sell on websites like Etsy, and they work just exactly the same. So now being able to expand the storage of the PSP Go to beyond the 32 gigabytes, which was the max back in the day, this really opens up the opportunity to add a ton of PSP games onto the console. And of course, there's homebrew, so you can put emulators on there as well, like Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color. So there's additional space to add those as well. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic mod. It allows you to not have to kind of search and source a memory stick M2 card, which are actually kind of expensive if you want to get a 16 gigabyte version. So this is a much cheaper alternative. Plus, it gives you way more storage than was ever possible for the PSP Go. And yeah, if you go in the article, I can show you where you can purchase the Genius Game Mods version. But like I said, there's other versions out there as well for you to purchase. So yeah, if you want to learn more about this mod and really kind of see how to install it, definitely check out the video. It walks you through step-by-step how to install this mod into your PSP Go. And yeah, thank you, Bob, for having me, and have a good one.
So my favorite YouTuber, or one of my favorite YouTubers, Decino, all this stuff, I started getting really super into like Doom retro gaming. And then I pistol start, beat, and UV max every level in Doom 2, which was really damn hard. But like kind of along the way, I was testing out different source ports and learning all this different shit about it. But like this long and arduous process, I mean, I put in I don't know, dozens of hours, like probably about 100 hours of gameplay. And it got me a pretty good lay of the land on these source ports. So I just wanted to go over this real quick. Doom, the engine was, I can even jump to it here. It was open sourced, and here is the current one on GitHub, obviously, but it was open sourced in like friggin' 1997. So people have just ported it to everything, you know? Yeah, like that was really confusing for me at first because everything seems like it's been about FPGA for many years now. It seems to be like the only thing anyone talks about. And no one's like, oh man, the 486 core for MiSTer FPGA. I can't wait to play Doom in it. Like no one gives a and it's because, you know, you can get a source port on anything that you want, you know, like an Android based system. You can probably get PR Boom or Chocolate Doom or something for it, you know. A lot of these ports, it's kind of confusing just because there's so much different stuff. So I go over like some of the top ones, you know, in the Doom community. This was actually very helpful when I found this Doom World user. So the first baseline thing, you know, you need the game assets, and those are the WADs. You need that, and you need a source port to play Doom. And I recommend getting a copy of Ultimate Doom and Doom 2 from GOG, even not on sale. They're $5 each. So I kind of break it down for like the people who aren't going to go through the whole article. And I just start off like, you know, if you're not super interested in learning a lot of stuff, the port you should just go with is GZ Doom. You know, it's going to do everything you want. You're going to want to play like the new hotness. You know, you're going to want to play myhouse.wad. You're going to want to play it's a Doom Unlimited. What's it called? Doom Infinite. Yeah. But like, I don't really love GZ Doom. It's not super for me. It just does too much, you know. It's got the smeary anti-aliasing on the textures, and you can set up psi effects, which I think are gross. But like GZ Doom is great, solves a lot of problems. Not like, I mean, you want to play Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, a 3D Sonic the Hedgehog in a Doom engine. I mean, I want to do that actually. Like that's pretty rad. I need to like that in this Aliens game. I want to try. These look really super rad. I think if you want to play Doom, you know, get a source port that feels like Doom and doesn't feel like, I don't know, just quit trying to fade me with this stuff. Right now, my favorite source port is DSDA Doom. It is like, it's of the PR Boom Plus lineage. It's great. It's got all these cool, like, features. Like, I love, this is the level table. And this is a flex, by the way. E4, M1, and M2. UV Max. That's right, baby. We fucking did it. Like, this will warp you to the levels. You don't have to use ID Clev to warp to it. And it's got like rewind and fast forward. Like, that's so damn rad. I just love that. And the other one, PR Boom, you know, this is basically the older version of DSDA Doom. They took is more or less retired. The retired version is still great, still very playable, but DSDA Doom is the newer version. The only thing that I could find offhand is this ALSA support. Chocolate Doom rules. It's like low res. It's really fun to play. It legitimately feels exactly like playing on a piece of vintage hardware. It's nuts. And then there's Xandronum. I don't know. It seems like it begins and ends with multiplayer. I didn't really mess around with it too much. But Zandronum is also notable because it has the same feature set. Oh, you fragged Ass Blaster. That's nice. It has the full feature set of GZ Doom, which means a lot of GZ Doom mods are, they're viable to play in this, which is why this, this map that they're running has got all these crazy light effects and does not just look like bare bones Doom. So I told Decino, love your channel. I wrote this article, and the dude actually went and read it, which is amazing. But this video, great, well worth watching. It explains comp levels very much. But we go into a little bit about MIDI and how MIDI works in Doom. And I give these 3 examples of E1M1 remixed by different hardware handling it. And we go into like a method of using sound fonts with virtual MIDI synth. And this is pretty robust, works in DOSBox and in all of these source ports that I tested. And then I go into Doom Launcher, which we're going to use today, and it handles a lot of problems. Sometimes you want to load these files and to do this and that, and it just gets a little bit of a pain in the ass. Sometimes the stuff doesn't work, but once I've downloaded and used Doom Launcher, I've had no problems. Oh, what's this Patreon button doing here? That's really the long and short of it. I worked incredibly hard on this, testing all these damn things. But yeah, this was really fun. Got it done. Got something up on RetroRGB for everybody. But anyway, you can find this on RetroRGB.com. It's the second article they published, another one today just after this, but the RetroRGB guide to Doom source ports.
Hey everyone, Chris from Displaced Gamers here. I just released a new video in the Behind the Code Leveled Up series that focuses on Tetris for the NES. And specifically, it looks into the fact that Tetris will crash the processor of the NES if you manage to get past level 150. And the reason this happens is because the score logic takes longer and longer and longer to execute the higher your level in the game. Well, naturally, the developers decided that, there's no reason to worry about people getting past level 29. There's no way this would ever become a problem, right? Sure, it takes a little bit longer to execute, but no need to worry about that in terms of programming. Well, except for 3 decades plus later, players are deliberately trying to crash the game, and they're doing it by managing to get up past level 150. Now, there's all kinds of logic that's involved in why this happens. And so what I do in this episode is try to walk you through each of the steps of adding a player's score and how the NES can't do multiplication. So if you're on level 0, it only has to add a score of 40 if you clear one line. But if you're on level 4, then it has to add 40, add 40, add 40, add 40, add 40 in order to roll up your score. So naturally, if you get to level 150, you're going to be doing a lot of looping. And the longer that takes, the more likely that you're going to interrupt important logic when it comes time to do a new frame. And that happens in vertical blank, if you're familiar with the NES. And so if you'd like more details on that, if you want to know how the logic works for scoring in Tetris, any conversions that need to be performed, what we're interrupting that's causing all kinds of problems, check out the latest Behind the Code Leveled Up video. I hope you like it. I have more Tetris specific stuff on the way, so I hope you'll subscribe and stay tuned for that. And Bob, congrats on episode 400, man. Nice work.
Hey everyone, it's Lou from Lou's the Retro Source. I'm going to be talking about the MiSTerCast project by Shane Lynch and how it can completely change the way you use your MiSTer FPGA. So what is MiSTerCast? Well, it's a Windows application that allows you to mirror your PC's desktop to a CRT that's connected to a MiSTer FPGA, allowing you to play any content you want on a CRT. You can enjoy modern retro-style indie games with a truly authentic CRT look, view standard definition media like movies and TV shows, output YouTube, and even see how modern games look on a CRT. All this is possible because of the groovy MiSTer core that runs on a MiSTer FPGA setup. MiSTerCast sends your PC desktop to groovy MiSTer, where it handles the video output to your CRT. But it is still important for applications to add native groovy MiSTer support and not rely on MiSTerCast. Native support will allow better latency and automatically set correct resolutions and refresh rates for the content being displayed. While the latency in MiSTerCast is good enough for casual gameplay, it is not good enough for competitive style gameplay. If you're interested in this project and how to set this up, check out my video and the links in the RetroRGB article to get you up and running.
After releasing an update for the Mega Everdrive Pro last week, Crix has released updates for both the Everdrive 64 and Turbo Everdrive Pro. A lot of these changes are pretty technical, but owners of these carts should see some improvements. For the Everdrive 64, Crix has fixed a bug that would stop certain revisions of Pokemon Stadium from booting, and improved support for Animal Crossing on MPAL systems. For the Turbo Everdrive Pro, we're looking at better SD card compatibility, better homebrew support, a fix for disappearing save state menus, and a new audio preset that should work well for the Analog Duo. If you want a more technical breakdown of these updates, and links to the latest firmwares for these carts, check out my post on RetroRGB.com. Before I go, congratulations on 400 roundups, Bob, and thank you for all the effort that you've sunk into helping the retro gaming community.
Now it's time for this week's MiSTer Updates, and since we had Lou here talking about his awesome video showing MiSTerCast, I figured I would just run through this one. Also, I thought it'd be a little weird to ask Lou to repeat the exact same thing that he said in his video in this one, and I really do love going through these because I'm obviously a massive fan of the MiSTer project. So let's run through these real quick, and of course, refer to Lou's video if you want some visual examples. First up, the Tap2 project now has the ability to load covers, or game covers for game loading screens, which is really awesome, and a standby screen, as well as some other consoles and computers are now available to work with it. I'm going to have a short video on Tap2 soon, but honestly, this is one of these things that when I first saw it, I really liked it, but when I actually used it, I loved it, and hopefully I'll be able to do a video that really gets that point across. Next up, Pierco posted a couple of videos of the Fujitsu FM7 core booting, and one of them on Twitter, he put a video of them side by side with the original console, which is one of those things where if you're not a deep nerd for stuff like this, it might just look like a DOS-style screen, but if you are into this, you realize that the cursor is flashing at the exact same speed, so the accuracy of it is really good. So that was a kind of a neat video. One of those like low-key, awesome videos to post. I like that. Next, the GB MIDI cord was updated to include the implementations of the wave and noise voice channels, so that's pretty cool. That completes all of the available voices for the Game Boy. The next game in the MiSTer Discord challenge is Sonic CD, and the challenge consists of time trials on 4 different stages, and they're all relatively quick. Love Sonic CD, but I've never really gone into the different time trials and different... I certainly never went into all of the different future and past to get all of the emeralds, so I'm not sure if I would enjoy the game that way. I love just blasting through Sonic games and exploring, but... Anyway, next up, Hans Bayer has received an updated Mystex baseboard and tested some of the features. Snack works, HDMI works, VGA works, and JTAG for the Raspberry Pi microcontroller works, as well as audio. So the Mystex project is moving along, and I'm just so excited to see that, because that will allow all of the hard work of the MiSTer team just to be more easily ported to other hardware platforms, which is a good thing for everybody. Next up, Mr. Walrus posted about a recent update to the N64 core that includes a fix that helped one of the games. Robert is still just absolutely killing it with bug fixes on that core, and it is really awesome to see that progress as far as it's gone. Next up, Sorg has just shown off a new official I/O board, which is very interesting. This will replace the old one, and I think it's going to require new cases as well, but the purpose of this one is it'll have all of the features of all of the other I/O boards integrated, and a separate board that will allow you to choose either a second RAM stick or analog video output. If you choose analog video output, it's 24-bit, so you could get the full color spectrum of the PlayStation and N64 cores. So it would be the same improvement as some of the other stuff I've been talking about, like the Retro Castle cases. And that would also allow for simultaneous dual analog and digital out with that 24-bit DAC. Now, of course, Sorg has the advantage because he also maintains all of the software, so it's going to require every core to be updated to be compatible with that, every single core, as well as the MiSTer main. So I think it's awesome. I got nothing but good things to say about that, but it's obviously a little bit different than like somebody from, like Ivory from Retro Castle coming along and trying to accomplish almost the same thing, but with the existing software requiring 0 changes to it. So basically, my personal opinion on recommendations, I still love the Retro Castle HDMI only case. That's still my absolute favorite for anybody that doesn't need analog, or if they do, it's kind of an afterthought. Maybe they'll buy an external DAC later or whatever. That's still my go-to. If you're really looking for dual simultaneous analog and digital and you haven't bought one yet, this might be the way you could go, because the only advantage of the other cases that are out there is that you get the dual output at different resolutions with 24-bit DAC support. And if that's not super important, any of the existing cases, or of course the Retro Castle case that allows for dual RAM and digital, as well as analog output one at a time, not at the same time, I still stand by all those recommendations. Those are still awesome. So just so cool to see Sora continuing to work on analog output, though, because that is so important for so many of us. As soon as one's available to test, I'll put it through all of my usual tests. I'll implement all of Kuro's tests as well, and we can really see how this thing performs compared to other ones, but I'm excited to try it. And also, there's a bunch more updates to the Saturn core, and once again, just thank you to SRG320 for continuing to chip away at this thing and getting us a more accurate and more reliable Saturn core. It's so amazing to see Saturn on MiSTer. And as I say every week, and I mean every week, thank you so much to Lou for doing all of these and for keeping up with it. There's no way I would be able to keep up with all of these updates, so he helps all of us out, including me and the RetroRGB team, and I just really appreciate it so much. So please don't forget to subscribe to Lou and to check out all of his other videos as well.
Hi everybody, Greg here from Laser Bear Industries. Bob asked me to be a part of this 400th weekly roundup. Super exciting that we've hit that milestone at the RetroRGB team. I do occasional posts on the site, and it's an honor to be invited to be part of this special occasion. So I'm here to talk about the new case that the Laser Bear team just released. So it's for the MemCard Pro GameCube. Those that don't know, the MemCard Pro lineup of memory cards is an SD card-based memory card to replace your existing memory cards on real consoles. So this is for, obviously, the GameCube being the GC version. And nice thing about it is you put an SD card in and you basically have unlimited storage for saves and everything else that you might use a memory card for in your, in this case, GameCube. These came from 8-Bit Mods, and I was part of the design team. I designed the shells for all 3 of these amazing devices. I don't have the other 2 on my desk right now, but it was awesome to be part of that project and get these out to people. And by having that kind of, or by doing the actual design work on this, I was able to make really close form-fitting cases. I don't know if you can see that in my lighting, but they fit real well around the actual layout of the memory card. And they're just nice and handy. They have a little magnet in them for this version and the version for the PlayStation 2 MemCard Pro. The original one is still just a detent lock. So it's a little different, but all 3 of them are great for protecting your MemCard Pros. You can find the links to purchase any of these right here on the RetroRGB's website, along with the actual MemCards as well. Bob has links up for all the different things. And you can also watch the review video from Macho Nacho to get a better idea of everything that these devices can do. Super handy and very convenient for backing up your saves, especially if you just want to like transfer them. You want to make your saves work from your like GameCube to the PC emulators or anything along those lines. It's super awesome. Here's to way more time with RetroRGB. I'm glad that I've been able to be a part of it all these years and see it grow. Thanks for everything that you do, Bob.
Hey, the Hakko FR301 is a desoldering tool that is one of the more common tools we use in retro restorations and repairs. Now, it's a great tool at removing solder for through-hole components, and it works exceptionally well when it is properly maintained. Now, you do have to keep this thing clean in order to properly use it. And of course, you have to clean this chamber, which is the nozzle, and then the heating element. But one of the more forgotten and neglected areas to clean is behind all that in this pump area. There's a valve in here. And what happens is as you use this pump, it will naturally pull in solder through this nozzle. The nozzle leads into this filter chamber, and that filter chamber collects all the solder you sucked up. But in the process of removing that solder, you're actually heating up that old solder, and flux fumes begin to be generated from that process. Now, that flux fume is also sucked into this, and it's not stopped by that filter chamber. It passes through that filter chamber and gets back in here into the pump, and it hits this little plastic valve. And over time, what happens is that flux gets stickier, and it stays in there. And as you don't use the tool, it will stick that valve to the other parts in there. And that just has to be cleaned, or you will completely lose your suction power from your pump, and you won't be able to pull solder anymore into that filter chamber. And then you may end up with a problem where you actually put the heating element on your circuit board for too long and you damage a board or something. So this can all be easily prevented by following the steps in this post here on how to clean your FR301. I also have a lovely video to accompany that if you want to see more information on how to clean it, as well as other useful tips on using the FR301. And I also linked a handy service manual in the post. So check those things out. And hey, congratulations, Bob. 400 episodes. That's awesome.
So, an N64 homebrewer and YouTuber named James Lambert decided to use his Arduino-based USB to N64 controller adapter to make the Oculus Rift Developer Kit 1 VR headset work on an N64 by having the headset's sensors be tracked by the console and then having a side-by-side stereoscopic image sent to the VR headset through an HDMI port that was modded onto the console. And honestly, this is a really freaking cool proof of concept, because as you can probably tell, I like VR stuff, and retro gaming is also pretty cool. So seeing the two merge together is just really fascinating. And while it's not something that you would want to use for an actual game because of the steps required to take the data from the headset to the actual console, is it leads to a lot of lag, unfortunately. And because of that, it's not something you'd want to play an actual game with, but for a proof of concept, it's pretty neat. I recommend checking out the video. That's why this post doesn't have a lot, because I still want people to watch the video. And yeah, go check it out. It's really freaking cool.
Hey everyone. There's a new batch of ATX to Naomi power adapters that Mitsurugi from the Arcade Projects forums is now selling. The adapter is priced at $30 and can be directly ordered on the thread linked in the post. The Naomi is mostly known among console enthusiasts as the arcade counterpart of the Dreamcast, which is a fairly accurate description. The Naomi and Dreamcast actually shared a lot of similarities in terms of hardware architecture, but the Naomi was a bit more capable, especially when it came to memory. So the Naomi came out around the same time as the Dreamcast in Japan in '98 and was one of the first arcade systems that adopted the JVS standard. This was like the next evolution of JAMA. It featured an HD15 port for video, RCA ports for audio, and JSTVL or 2VLR connectors for power. The Naomi could be adapted to work on JAMA setups, but that required the use of a conversion kit such as the Capcom I/O board. Now, acquiring an original Naomi JVS style power supply or a JAMA conversion kit can be pretty expensive these days. That's why the ATX to Naomi adapter is a great solution that lets you use high-grade modern ATX power supplies to power your full Naomi setup. That may include a NetDIMM adapter or a DIMM plus GD-ROM drive. The adapter itself has two VLP plugs on one end that goes into the Naomi, and a 24-pin ATX connector on the other end that goes into the ATX power supply. Most importantly, it runs individual wires from each 5 volts, 12 volts, 3.3 volts, and ground connections on the ATX connector to ensure that the Naomi is receiving sufficient power to function safely and properly. So if you're looking for a convenient way to power your Naomi setup without having to track down rare and expensive parts, definitely check out the ATX to Naomi adapter. Funny enough, the first post I ever wrote for RetroRGB back in 2018 was arcade related, and the source was Arcade Projects, the Arcade Projects forums as well. The post was featured in Roundup number 119. So here I am, 281 roundups later, still reporting exciting news in the retro community whenever I can. So here's to 400 more roundups of RetroRGB awesomeness.
So, 400 episodes of RetroRGB. I'm really impressed for all your work that has been able to gather the community, have a place for information, and also news every week. 400 episodes. That's, my deepest respect and thanks for all the work that you have done. And your friendship, of course. And, today I'm here to talk to you about the CPS system, the CCPS SDK, how Tetris work, and also some of WeakerWaka's work. And everything is detailed in the post at the site, but I'm going to go through some of the details here. The book that Fabien Sanglard made, which the CCPS SDK derives from, is an amazing piece of work. I've been meaning to talk about it here in RetroRGB for quite a while, but I wasn't ready yet since I hadn't had my hands on it for some in-depth view of how this works. But the book is amazing. If you want to check it out, it's also available as a donation if you want to, and for free, the PDF at his site. I'm going to show you that in a bit. But here he talks about the history of the system, how it works, the developments, the hardware, you can see it, and also how the logically the system works, bus, audio, how the graphics work, how it was developed for, right? How the sprites work, layers, the hardware, the software concepts, how you develop for it. And he also provides an SDK. And this is amazing. I'm impressed this exists. Go check it out if you're interested. Here's his site. The links are in the post at RetroRGB, but here's also the SDK that accompanies it, and it's posted as open source. You can check it out as well. Here's the instructions to use it, and the GitHub, of course, the link to the book, here it is, and also the GitHub page for the source code. Okay, so you can check that out. I highly recommend you do that. But this comes to mind because we as a community have the means to develop for the systems, thanks to work from Fabien. And Hakko contacted me regarding the development of MD40 and some issues that were reported on MiSTer for inconsistencies on the audio levels between the synthesizers, the ADPCM that's right here. Well, it's below this board, and the FM part. It has two synthesizers, one for samples and one for FM. Thing is that we needed measurements, and since this was a golden opportunity to develop that, I went right into it, and it was an issue on making it run on real hardware, you can read that in the post. You usually go through the cycle of writing to these EEPROMs that you see here using an EEPROM burner, okay? And then you have to erase that with an EEPROM eraser. Okay, that's an UV light that you shine over it, and it's time consuming. But thankfully, I had the help of WickerWaka, who developed this Pico-ROM that you should check out as well. These are amazing because they emulate the ROMs with a Raspberry Pi Pico, and you use USB-C connectors to just drop the software and every build of your ROM into it. Here's the code for Pico-ROM. You should check that out by WickerWaka, an amazing work. His kindness and knowledge and his code are amazing. So I was able to develop CPS1 MD for that and help out a bit Hakko in developing this. There were some issues making it run on real hardware. You can check that out in the post. And, well, I won't take much more of your time, that I've taken quite a lot already. But I thank you guys for supporting this kind of work. And I've been meaning to work in the future for several or more arcade systems, Sega System 16, so Upland Hardware, Cave 68000, IGS PGM, everything that I can do that has similar things. I'm slow, but I love this kind of thing, so I will be working on that. Again, thank you, RetroRGB, and please read the posts and check out the work by these amazing people. Take care.
All right, before we conclude the 400th, let's talk Tink. First of all, I want to congratulate Mike on selling out another very large batch of RetroTink 4Ks. I really just think that that's proved itself time and time again as the most powerful and feature-rich scaler the gaming world has ever seen, and it was just so awesome to see all the love for it. And this batch took just over an hour to sell out, but there were even more than last time, so that means the demand for this thing is still pretty strong. Just over a month from now, Mike will be posting another batch for sale that is even more in stock, so I don't think that one's going to sell out right away. At the very least, you shouldn't have to jump on your browser and hit refresh a million times until you get it. You should be able to just log in around the time and get one. No telling how long they'll be in stock, but I don't think it would be as frantic because there's going to be a lot more, but I guess time will tell. I'll have a lot more content on it soon, and that's kind of the other reason I wanted to talk about the RetroTink 4K, not just to congratulate Mike, but to very quickly go over a live stream that I had to delete, unfortunately. I wanted to show a very crazy use case for the Tink 4K, which I don't recommend unless you were already buying it for other reasons, but if you already own one and you have a CRT PC monitor that's capable of running over 60 Hertz, you could take stuff like 24p native content and then run that in 72 frames per second. So rather than have 3.2 pull down, 24p content going to 60 Hertz, or I guess 50 Hertz depending on where you live, you should be able to get that as long as your monitor is compatible, using custom profiles on the Tink 4K to 72 Hertz. Now, I talked about this in the RetroTink 4K launch video, the whole 3.2 pull down 72p, or the 24p thing, so I don't want to waste anybody else's time here. Please reference that if that's something that you're interested in. But I just wanted to share my results because that's really what mattered in that live stream. Using a very, very nice PC monitor, thanks again, Chris, for hooking me up with that, I was able to get 72p working by just doing the reverse telecine? Anybody know what I'm supposed to say for that? But using the inverse telecine to take the 60 Hertz content and revert it back to 24. And then I took a Blu-ray that was 16:9, but with a 4:3 TV show, Knight Rider, and I was very easily able to present that in the monitor and then triple that 24p to 72, and wow, holy crap, the smooth motion of 24p on a CRT looked absolutely incredible. We did it a couple of different ways. We did it in 1080p, but cutting the sides off. So that was the native resolution of the Blu-ray, which looked insane. It almost looked too good, to be honest with you. And then we also dropped it down to 480p for that more CRT look. We used the CRT Simulate progressive option that Mike just added, and all of them looked insane. I absolutely loved it. We also did the same thing with 96 Hertz and BFI, and I don't think it's really necessary unless you truly want to emulate the flicker of old movies and a film projector. Whereas BFI on an OLED is something I would really always recommend just trying. If it works, great. If it doesn't, if it's not the look you're going for, or if it's too dark in your room, that's fine too, but it's always worth trying based on the content that you're watching. Not sure I would recommend it for anything other than when you really want that projector flicker going. And we were also able to try out an XM29. Thank you, Justin, for that. That's amazing. And we were able to try that at 48 hertz, so 24p doubled, and it was actually really flickery. More flickery than adding BFI in the 96 hertz part. So I'm not sure I would really recommend that unless you're watching really, really, really old movies and you want something to, I would almost do that as like an artistic effect and not use it to watch movies that way. So this was really incredible for any CRT enthusiasts that's interested in not just gaming, but movies and TV shows that were shot in 24p. And this is something that I'm definitely going to be doing more testing on. And once time allows, I'll probably do a video just dedicated to that. But I would have to be very picky with my content and make sure that I only have a few seconds at a time on screen, because that's what ended up happening is in the middle of the stream and then afterwards I got copyright. I don't think I got a copyright strike. I think I got copyright blocked, so the video wouldn't be available to be viewed basically anywhere. So I ended up just deleting it because I don't want a copyright strike on my channel. Super unfair though, because I was using that as an educational thing, which means anybody watching that might have actually gone out and watched Knight Rider afterwards. Would have added to sales, not taken away, but it is what it is. You can't fight, big Google and their algorithms and stuff like that. So I just wanted to share that as briefly as possible, the whole backstory for that, because I think 24p content in smooth motion, not using 3.2 pull down, is something that many of us may not have really truly discovered until 120 hertz panels. But now you could get just a really nice PC VGA monitor that might be able to run at 480p 72. And you could try this out now, and I just was super impressed with the results. It's obviously going to work better with 4x3 content with a 4x3 monitor, unless you want, everything just right in the middle like that. Or you could do something like I did run this test with the X-Files, and even though the Blu-ray of it was now in kind of more of a wide aspect, you could just cut the sides off so it sort of looks like the original. So it's still 4x3. That would work too. But I'll do a video on this at some point, probably a few months down the line. But I had to share the results because even though 1% of the people who are listening to this care, they're going to be incredibly excited about the results. And once again, I am not suggesting that you spend $750 just to buy this RetroTink 4K to get 72p on a CRT. I'd much rather see you get an OLED for something like that. But if you already have those, and you like that kind of content, you have to try it. And hopefully me just word vomiting at you at the camera is enough of an explanation to go through that. So thanks again to Mike for joining me for that live stream. I'm so sorry we had to take it down and waste your time, but I loved messing with the custom mode lines. I loved doing all that stuff, and it was such a neat experience. So thanks to everybody who joined. And once again, congrats to Mike. Absolutely a well-deserved second in a row sellout of just the best scaler. Well, that's it for the 400th Roundup. I still can't believe I've gotten through all of these, and I still feel so lucky and so grateful to everybody for allowing me to continue to do this, because it really is you who makes all of this stuff happen. And to be honest, every week at the end, I say basically the same thing, and I mean it. I wholeheartedly mean it every week, so I'm not really sure what else I could possibly say to drive that point home. You all are amazing. You all are the only reason I'm able to do this, and I say that every week, and I thank you every week, and I just genuinely mean it. So I can't really think of anything else that I might want to say or anything else that I haven't said every week. I mean, I guess maybe there's one thing I've always wanted to get off my chest, and I never really found the right place to do it, or really didn't want to deal with the aftermath of it, but I guess it's the 400th, so I might as well just go for it. All right, so the truth about Voltar is This week's Roundup is brought to you by Neo Paradigm Entertainment, connecting Southeast Asian influencers with opportunities in the West.